to see everybody on. I see people are piling in from the waiting room. That's so exciting. It was funny, Tom. People were booked in like 10 minutes even before this began. They were starting to pile into that waiting room. They were so excited to see you, and we're so grateful that you're here with us today. If you are unfamiliar, my name is Tara Christensen. I am one of the National Customer Training Managers with REA Group, and I am here today to be part of this webinar and to introduce everything. Before we get started, though, I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea, and community. We pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people joining us today. Now, vendor paid advertising. It's always a hot topic for real estate agents. However, it may be a matter of knowledge and confidence. Knowledge about the available products that are out there and the confidence to demonstrate to a vendor why that advertising will work. Research from our recent Property Seeker report tells us that 9 out of 10 sellers yet to list indicated they'd like to advertise their property online, with realestate.com.au being the preferred advertising channel. Of sellers who'd already listed their property, 96% were advertising online, with realestate.com.au being the most used advertising channel. Online advertising was considered the most effective channel by 9 out of 10 sellers, which is why a little bit later on, we're going to touch on 2 products offered by realestate.com.au you should be knowledgeable about, which is Lux and Audience Maximizer. Because sellers too get remorse. We hear about buyer's remorse, but sellers also get remorse. More sellers said they wish they spent more on advertising than less. But don't get me wrong, sellers are still price conscious and they have to believe in what they're paying for. In other words, the secret of VPA is knowledge and confidence in the paid advertising you're offering, which is why we have Tom Panos with us today. Tom Panos is Australia's leading real estate coach and the founder of a real estate gym. He's known as the go-to person by the top 1% of real estate agents in the business for training on how to get more listings and make more sales. So today, Tom's going to share his top tips on how to overcome vendor objections to secure vendor paid advertising, aka VPA. He's going to share tips on effective language to secure that VPA, including how to demonstrate the value of marketing beyond the listing itself. He will also share proven strategies to overcome common vendor objections and visualization tools to help elevate your living room pitches. And then I'm also going to put him on the spot because I'm going to ask him for how he would speak to that Audience Maximizer and Lux products. Now, if you have any questions as we're going along, please use the Q&A function, not the chat function, the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen, and we'll do our best to address them during the Q&A. So don't leave early. You don't want to miss a minute of this. Tom, over to you.
Tara, thank you so much. And you look absolutely, that color selection really does bang. It's perfect, perfect pink. Thank you. So great to see you, real estate agents of Australia, wherever you are, whether you're in Perth, whether you're in New South Wales, whether you're in Northern Territory, Hobart, Victoria, South Australia. I'm letting you know it is a very big day, of course, in Australian real estate. And how did we end up having this webinar scheduled on the biggest day the Reserve Bank has had in terms of announcements in years? And I'm in New Zealand as we're speaking right now. It is here 1 o'clock, I presume, in most parts of Australia, basically New South Wales and Victoria. It's probably 11 o'clock. In other parts, it might be 10 o'clock, but we're going to know roughly at around 2:30 this afternoon what is happening with interest rates. Today, I've got to tell you, before we kick off our event on vendor paid advertising, the favorite subject I teach on. Part of the reason is I come from a background of media, having worked with News Corp for 2 decades, and I can't help it. In my real estate gym, when I'm sitting there and I'm looking at the agents that are doing 100 sales a year and over. In my real estate gym, when I'm looking at the people that are writing in excess of $1 million in GCI, I notice and I observe that they are what I consider attraction agents. An attraction agent is best defined by this sentence: it's not who you know, it's who knows you. It's not who you know, it's who knows you. And of course, I know that in a sales job, the sales function is to be reaching out to talking to people. And part of the training that I do with real estate people is make more phone calls. But I've also got to tell you, when I look at that top 1%, as Tara indicated, and that's what we're looking at, when I look at that top 1%, I clearly see that they have moved from being a prospector to being the prospected. They have built a brand. And brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. And they have built that brand because they have been meticulous in the way that they've gone about delivering vendor paid advertising at listing presentations. And they have also been really, really good at helping getting a property and proving its perceived value, improving the perceived value significantly. So I'm often asked by people, why VPA in the first place? What does vendor paid advertising do? Well, number one, it's going to attract more buyers to a property. And if you really think about it, more buyers equals more competition, and competition wins the Australian Open in tennis that we saw last month, and competition gets top dollar in real estate. What we've got to do is become good at creating competition amongst buyers. And the way that we do that is we become really good at selling vendor paid advertising. What I'd love you to do in the chat box, because I am going to give away, courtesy of Tom Panos and the Real Estate Gym, I'm going to give away a 3-month real estate gym subscription that has all my scripts, all my dialogues, all the templates, every letter. I have got the GPS for you to succeed. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a winner at the end of this webinar and give that prize. So could you please put in the chat box, what do you think the qualities I've seen of the best agents at obtaining vendor paid advertising are? Could you please type in the chat box? I want to make sure, and I want to let you know, we have got prizes that we're going to give as a result of your engagement. So if you could please do that right now in the chat box, please. Integrity, beautiful. Thank you. Cody says quality and consistency, belief in the effectiveness of the advertising. Keep them coming, team. Confidence in delivery, personal profile, strategy, confidence and knowledge, persistence, transparency, like and trust. Oh my God, I would love to win that. Yes, storytelling. Beautiful. Keep it coming. Fantastic, Tara. I'm excited. They are awake. Thank you so much. Getting back to it. All these things are very important, but from what Damo says to everyone, believe in what you say. So let me tell you, I have studied the best of the best in vendor paid advertising. Here are 3 qualities I've learned. Number one, they have belief in it. They believe in it. So when they believe in something, they walk in to the listing presentation, their energy does the selling. You see, energy is weird. It's a bit like the wind. You can't see it, but you can feel it. And a great agent that has got self-belief and believes in marketing will actually have this field of vibrational energy that will go to the client, and the client will think to themselves, I need to do that. The other one that I've noticed the best of the best have in getting vendor paid advertising is this. They have case studies. They have stories. And in fact, one of the people commented in the chat box there that they use case studies and stories. Please remember this: stories sell, facts tell. Learn to be a good storyteller. End the story. Stories sell, facts tell. Be a good storyteller. And what I've got to say to you is this: When you tell a story, what you're doing is you're getting the person that you're telling the story to be in the story. That's what actually happens when you tell a story. And in real estate, stories are case studies. And in a moment, I'm going to sort of show you the sort of things that you can show. And let me tell you the third thing I noticed about great vendor paid advertising agents. They've got the great dialogue. They've got the scripts. Never use 1,000 words when 50 will do. And what are the great real estate agents doing? They're actually explaining it. And by the way, scripts are not about you not being authentic. Scripts are about you telling the truth efficiently. Why should you use 1,000 words when 50 will do? An example could be a simple sentence like this: Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, what's more important to you, the risk of over marketing by $3,000 or the risk of underselling by $100,000? Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, I want to let you know, most people are investing $2,000 a year on car insurance to ensure that they're not underselling or not losing on their car asset, which could be worth $100,000. Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, it makes sense that we invest the same amount of money, that we don't undersell the biggest asset that you own. So what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to share my screen. And what I want to do is I want to actually show you a couple of slides that really sum up my philosophy to vendor paid advertising. And the first one is this term of recency trumps loyalty. There are so many real estate agents that are sitting there and saying to me, Tom, there's no more loyalty in real estate. I sold them that house 10 years ago. They put it back on the market. They never even called me in to give me a chance. Well, hello, Australian real estate. Let me tell you, just because you sold them a house did not automatically mean that you will have their agency agreement next time they sell. Most likely what is happening is there's another agent in your area. They know how to get marketing. They're winning the marketing brand game. They've got incredible advertising, both offline and online. They're attracting both the passive and the active buyer, and they're everywhere. And what happens is they get the attention of that vendor. And what happens is that the agent that's got the most marketing gets the most attention, and attention is the game that we're in. So the next time you complain about loyalty, let me tell you, recency trumps loyalty. Eminence is an interesting term. In the dictionary, it says a position of prominence or superiority, a person of a high rank or attainment, often used as a title for a cardinal, a natural elevation. Team, what I'm saying is this: when you're a brand attraction agent, when you're an agent that stands out because you've got incredible photography, great video, you've got on realestate.com, you're on Premier All, because let me tell you, if you're not on Premier All, you're building a billboard in the forest. You are not going to get noticed. So when you're doing all of that stuff, and then you also go in and you've got some advertising that's going away from the buyer, that's the active buyer. You see, some buyers, they're passive. They're not sitting on realestate.com in that suburb. Example, if they're looking to buy in, say, Newtown in Sydney, they might not be in Newtown. They might be busy working. They might not be on the site, but they're on social media and they see an ad come up, whether it's on Facebook, Insta, news.com, any other digital asset. That's what we call is the passive buyer. So the agents that I know that are house price maximizers are agents that are using marketing that works in combination, not in isolation. I want to move on to my next slide. And what we're talking about is getting really good at vendor paid advertising. Not only you're going to benefit the vendor, because the vendor is going to get more eyeballs, right? The vendor is also going to have their property improved its perceived value. This is a thing that often people don't talk about. It's not just that there's more buyers that are going to see the property. What we also know is this, that if you've got an ad and it's a beautiful ad, example, let's assume It's Premier Plus Lux, and it stands out. It's got incredible engagement. It's got great photography. It's got a great video. It's got good copywriting. What you're doing is you're not just getting more buyers, but what you're doing is you're improving the perceived value of that property. It's no difference to what you have with water. If you think about it, if I walked into a restaurant and they said, would you like some water? I said, yes. And they say, would you like tap sparkling? I'd say, give me tap. They're going to bring this odorless liquid over. I'm going to look at it. It won't be on the bill because it's out of the tap. And what will actually happen is I'll drink it and life's good. But if I turned around and I said, yeah, get us some sparkling water, what they would send me is probably a bottle of Pellegrino, that green bottle with the label, $14. And you know what? What will end up happening is I'll pay $14 and it's essentially the same thing. So I want everyone to know, what do we do in real estate? Apart from marketing, getting more buyers, apart from marketing, getting the active and the passive buyer, apart from marketing, getting us the local and the out of area buyer, what we're doing is we're changing the perceived value of that property by turning the glass of water into a Pellegrino. That's what we need to be doing to the vendors that we represent. Because I want to remind everyone, in real estate, we bring a few things to the table, and this slide here is probably going to show it best. There are only two things that an agent brings to the table in real estate. They bring marketing resources to attract more buyers. That's the first thing. And the second thing they do is they bring in negotiation ability to, once they've located who the best buyer is, not the first buyer. And that's why, ladies and gentlemen, I am so over it when I ask a client, how many listings you've got? And they say, I've got 2 online and I've got 3 off market. What is this off market? As far as I'm concerned, if it's not on the market, it's not in the market. End of story. So what do we do in real estate? We bring in two things. We bring in marketing resources to attract more buyers, and we got to become a black belt, BIW, best in the world in negotiation, because the difference between a good negotiator and a bad negotiator can be 10%. So what I want to do is let you know, here is something that's a really basic example. When we talked about case studies, I said there were 3 things: believe in marketing, I said case studies, and I said having scripts and dialogues. And we're going to cover some of the scripts in a moment. But here's an example. Have stories, simple properties, where you talk about, hey, this home sold for this price, this is what we're expecting to get, this is what it sold, had 39 inspections, days on market 27, the marketing investment was 4,900, the fee that we charge them 2.5. So what you're doing is you're giving them examples, because what you want to show to them is that they're not being a guinea pig or an experiment in the marketing game. You want to show them that others have actually done exactly what you're recommending. And I think a really nice piece of dialogue to use is, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, I'm only recommending to you what I would do myself if I was selling my home. Without a doubt, one of the most important graphs I'm going to show you, particularly for those that are auction agents, is a bidder's template. And what I can say to you, oops, let me bring over here, bidder's template. Oh, give me a second. I'll just bring this up here. The bidder's template here, come here. I'll just bring that out in a moment. But in the meantime, team, can I just get you in the chat box, what I'd love you to do is to put down what are some of the objections? What are some of the objections that you're getting at listing presentations regarding marketing? Please go for it. Type away in the chat box. Da-da-da, da-da-da. So team, I want you to have a look at that bidders template, because what I did is I've actually updated it, because later on when Tara comes on and we have a conversation about Lux and REA and Audience Maximizer, I want to let you know some of the best real estate agents that are auction agents in the country are telling me they use a bidders template where they use a case study, they show bid, name, source of where the buyer came from. Because what you want to do is you want to show a client when you're sitting there in the living room, if we take away one thing, we take away the buyer. We take away the buyer, we take away the bid. We're building a story that when we remove components of marketing, we're impacting the price. So while you're doing that, I'm just going to go down here and I'm just going to read some of the objections. So Bo says competition from other agents in our area offering complementary marketing for the opportunity to list their home, justifying the higher end of the REA products that we utilize. Beautiful. Can we get a can we just do a regular and save money? Price it, similar suburb, they feel they will be at the top. Right? You are the second agency and I have to pay for marketing. Other agents don't charge marketing to get a listing. No need for a video. It goes on and on and on and on and on. Now, listen, everyone, very clearly. Your job in real estate is one thing. When you go to a listing presentation, it is not to show them your trophies. It is not to show them your team. It is not to show them what you've sold. Your job is to show them how their house is worth more money if they go with you versus another agent. That is the only goal that you have. So really, what I'm saying is your goal is to show them how their house is worth more money with you. You are a house price maximizer. And I'm going to say to you, in 2025, we have so many tools that when I was at News Corp and I was selling advertising, we didn't have. Example, campaign agent. You can sit there to the client that says they don't have the money. There are now tools, and realestate.com, of course, with campaign agent, means that your vendors can get the benefit of a marketing campaign now that is excellent, best in the business, best of breed, and pay for it when they are cash rich, not when they're cash poor. That's what something like campaign agent does. But I've got to share with you 4 or 5 things that I use when I'm dealing with agents and coaching on VPA. The first thing is these 2 words: most people. Hear what I just said. Most people. I'm going to repeat that again. Actually, let me give you an example how you can use it. You go to a listing presentation and you say, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, would you like me to present you with a marketing program to make you happy or a marketing program to get you top dollar? Which of the 2 would you like? The second one, I want you to have 3 campaigns: gold, silver, bronze. And what you might do is say, here are 3 campaigns. Most of our vendors that get top dollar choose this one. The reason why you say most people is most people want to do what most people do. If you're sitting on Amazon Prime shopping, buying some headphones, and there's 10,000 to pick from, and you start having decision dementia, you don't know which one to buy, you see that red banner on one of the set of headphones, it says most recommended. So you buy that one. I'm in New Zealand. I was dying to have a coffee before my presentation this morning to Barfoot and Thompson. I looked at the cafes. There was 3 to pick from. What did I do? I went to the one that had the biggest line. I did what most people did. So I'm going to let you know, learn to use that word. And I'm going to also tell you another script before, in the next minute or so, I'm going to bring in Tara back in, because I want to talk to you about 2 things that REA has got that can not only help you win more listings, help your vendors get top dollar, but I believe it's the fast super highway to become an attraction agent that's got eminence. And here is the script. Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, there are two types of vendors I meet. There are those that don't care about marketing and price and want to get it sold quickly. And there are those that are looking for the best buyer, not the first buyer, and are looking for top dollar. I bet you're a bit like me and you want to get top dollar. Would that be right? They always say yes. Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, it is the process and not the promise of a price that's going to get you top dollar. Let me show you the process that I'd like to have your property positioned in. So I've got to tell you, if you can just get confident, believe in it, have case studies, and understand the product mix, you're going to become an agent that within a year of mastering getting VPA at the highest level, you're going to become an agent where they're going to be prospecting you. You're not going to be prospecting them. And that's when real estate starts to become ELF, effortless, lucrative, and fun. Tara, I'm going to bring you back in because I want to sit and talk about two specific things that you're going to talk about. I mean, most of our clients at realestate.com always just think, I'm going to go to my listing presentation and I'm going to tell them a signboard. I'm going to tell them we're going to put it on realestate.com. We're going to do Premiere because we want to stand out. You got to stand out to win out. That's a good piece of dialogue. You got to stand out to win out. But Tara, there are things now that the top 1% are doing that are extending on that. Tell us more.
Absolutely. And I love it because I get to kind of put you on the spot and see what your dialogue is going to be like. So the first one is Lux, and Lux is an on-site product from realestate.com.au. And it's when you need extraordinary results, you go Lux because it gives you an edge in a competitive market and presents you as leading agent on realestate.com.au. It delivers 2 times more property page and 75% more high value actions like saves and shares compared to Premier Plus listings without Lux. You unlock homepage placement so you can connect with high intent buyers with a premium position there. You get a large listing, so it's the largest listing. So you're dominating search results pages with that. And premium notifications, so you can maintain buyer interest throughout the campaign with e-brochures and targeted inquiry reminders. Now, you're in the lounge room. How would you
Yeah.
present that?
Okay. So, Tara, the first thing I want everyone to know as I move in and explain the dining room conversation, and we get it, we totally understand it. And REA is very mindful. The real salespeople for REA are the agents that sit in people's living rooms telling them this is how you go about maximizing your home. Tara, the first thing I want every viewer, or if those that are just listening, to understand is people don't want to not pay you money marketing. They just want to know that if they give you money marketing, that they're going to get more money back. So they're going to get the money that they invested in marketing plus more. So your job, Tara, to the agents out there is not to say, take Lux listings, the investment is this. What you're going to say is, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, I want to let you know that in addition to Premier Raw being on our own agent website, in addition to what we're going to do on our own social media, our signboard, our CRM system, our just listed letterbox drops, the video that we're going to do, in addition to that, there is a product that we have access to from realestate.com called Lux. What this does is have a high propensity to get the right buyer, the one that's got the most money. And I've got to let you know, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, the worst that you can happen if you overmarket with Lux listings is we lose a few dollars. The worst that can happen is if we undermarket by cutting out Lux listing, we lose $100,000. What would give you more peace of mind? So fundamentally, Tara, what you've got to do is to show the client the investment to Lux is not a cost. It is an investment in the profits. And I am also going to tell you that most of these properties, if you think about it, Tara, are going to be principal place of residence. They're going to be homes that people own. And in Australia, the last remaining tax haven is the principal place of residence. It is tax-free. So another good thing that you could be saying is, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, I refuse to mismarket your home and not use all the available assets, because I've seen some owners lose tens of thousands of dollars at the time of sale because they try to save a few $1,000s at the time of listing. In many ways, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, I'd like you to invest in Lux because it's taking out insurance that we don't undersell the biggest asset that you own. And in fact, if we got you an extra $100,000 because Lux got the attention of a buyer, and my records show, Tara, that not only are you getting 2 times more property page views, but you are also getting a 75% more chance of a high value action by the client while they're on REA. Is that correct? Okay. So I've got to tell you, but before I finish off, I'm going to say this, without a doubt, would be the most useful thing I would say in the living room. Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, I want to let you know the worst that can happen is if we use Lux, is we overinvest by a few dollars. The worst that can happen is if we don't use Lux, is we leave $100,000 on the table. I can't look you in the eye the day we get our final offer and say we did everything we can. And I've got to tell every agent watching this, Tara, every one of your vendors deserves the benefit of having the opportunity to aim for the sky. And that means that we use every possible asset that is out there. So that is what I probably would be doing when I'm talking with Lux, followed by 3 case studies where I'd say, this one used Lux, reserve was 2.5, sold for 2.7. This one used Lux, reserve was 1.5, sold for 1.8. This one used Lux, reserve was 900, sold for 980. Then I'd say, this one didn't use Lux, and you come up with some case studies that weren't as good and saying, unfortunately, they didn't end up getting that premium figure that they could have. Over to you, Tara.
And if anybody's looking for information like that, they just need to reach out to their realestate.com.au relationship manager, and they'll be able to pull some information for you as well and provide you with details on that. The next one is one of your old friends, Audience Maximizer. Now that's the offsite, right? So we know that people on average spend about 41 to 43 minutes on our site per month. And so, of course, you want to catch their eyeballs while they're on the site, but then you also want to catch them off the site because people spend up to 6 hours off site on the internet going to all kinds of places. And Audience Maximizer is one of the great ways to do that. It can drive up to 69% more listing views. It retargets those active buyers that are searching for properties like yours, as well as high intent audiences with similar characteristics. It delivers genuine results to your listing with click-based targeting campaigns. So it's not just the eyeballs, it's actually people clicking. So you can support upcoming inspections or auctions with Inspection Boost. You've got Sold Boost. So afterwards, you can promote your success to potential sellers with that. How do you present that?
Okay, so Tara, the first thing I'll say is I love and adore Audience Maximizer. And the reason why is I have spent the last 10 years, as Facebook and Instagram has become something that most real estate agents are using most days, if not every second day, only a small cohort of people are not using social media. But what I've noticed is that real estate agents are using social media to post trophies, to post egos. They're not using social media intelligently to help find buyers that may not be on REA in that moment or may have been on REA, but what actually happened is they get retargeted. And what I love about Audience Maximizer is the ability for it to actually find buyers that you might not have picked up from the main portal that is a lookalike buyer that shows up predominantly on Facebook, Insta, but other digital assets. Example, news.com is an example. Even when I landed on the plane here, I just couldn't help. When the flight landed, it was an international flight, so there was no Wi-Fi. I just, I look at people get onto their mobile phones and they're scrolling. They got their thumb and they're scrolling, and then they see this property and then they think, oh, hang on a second. That's the one I was looking at 3 days ago. So all I've got to say, everyone, please remember marketing works in combination, not in isolation. It hits you there. You see the signboard. Then a post comes up on Instagram. And that's what Audience Maximizer does. And I think the other thing it does is it helps you get that passive buyer. But my clients, Tara, my clients love and adore Audience Maximizer because of Soul Boost. It is actually going out there and it's letting people know, man, geez, this agent, she's selling so many things, right? They go on, they look at you, at your reviews, they're looking at you on your profile, then they're seeing the Audience Maximizer Soul Boost, and all of a sudden, you own the letterbox, you own the signboard, you own realestate.com, you own direct mail, and all of a sudden, you're also owning the passive social media audience. And what I would do is I would be using exactly the same dialogue and language that I was saying before with Lux. But what I might do is turn around and say, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, have you ever been in a situation where you looked at something online? Example, let me give you an example, Tara. I was looking at a towel, Tessellate towels. I love these towels because the sand doesn't stick on them. You know the ones I'm talking about? Yeah. So what happened is I was looking at this towel and I was sitting there on the bench, right? And I'm looking at this towel on my phone. You won't believe it. Soon afterwards, I see an ad being served on my social media. And it turns around and it says, oh, buy two, get the third free. Like, it was only half an hour ago I got introduced to Tessellate towels. I was looking at it. And then my daughter goes, I go to her, are they the ones? And she goes, yeah. She goes, get them now, quick. There's a deal. Buy it now. We can have one each. Buy it. You only have to pay for two of them. What Audience Maximizer has is the lookalike audience feel to it. And what it does is it gets people that you might not have got if you had not included Audience Maximizer. So I would say to a vendor, if you've ever been in that situation, well, let me tell you, we've got you covered, because I can tell you your home is far more important than selling a towel. In fact, if we got you an extra $50,000 because it's tax-free, that would be like getting $100,000 at work. Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, I recommend that we make sure that our offline and our online are in line, because marketing works in combination, not in isolation. So your marketing program should be the following: REA Premier, video. We'll do our social, but we're going to do Audience Maximizer because REA has got the biggest audience and they're going to get that lookalike audience better than anyone else can. In addition to that, we're going to get Lux because we know it's got 2 times more views. And I'm going to be able to tell you, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, that I refuse to mismarket and say sorry later. As far as I'm concerned, I'm going to launch your home no different to the way Apple launches a brand new mobile phone. Everyone is going to know about it. Tara, that's what I would do.
I love that. I love that. Especially, yep, I love that line. That's fantastic because it's an instant visual, isn't it? It's fantastic. There are some questions that have come through, and it's interesting because some of them actually have quite a few in common. So, because we had some ones that came in before the webinar, and it kind of matches with this. People, so there's agents. There are
Yeah,
agents either who offer free marketing or
yeah,
they will, discount that marketing. And they're
yeah.
wondering, doesn't that completely devalue the worth of vendor paid advertising? And how do you combat something like that? Or the no sale, no marketing fees? How do you combat those things?
Okay. So one way that you can do it is to share a story. And I'll share my personal story. Um, at one stage, when I was in real estate, Tara, I wasn't going hard on vendor paid advertising. But what I noticed is because I wasn't going hard on vendor paid advertising and I was spending part of my own money, all of a sudden I had a conflict of interest. I needed to get back my own money that I was spending as an agent promoting the property. So what I ended up doing is not necessarily selling it to the best buyer. I would try and sell it quickly to recoup my money. So I think you do have a conflict of interest. When you actually get involved in the marketing, what you're sort of saying is, I now have skin in the game. I need to sell your property and I need to sell it fast because I've got a lot of money out there that I need to recoup. And the only way I'm going to do it is to get you to accept an offer. And I find that agents that do that normally end up pushing their owners more than what they should, and owners get offended. So I think a really good thing to say is, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, I want to let you know, when you go see a doctor, there is a fee for the doctor, which is called Medicare in Australia. And then there is a fee for the medicine that you go pay at the chemist. It's no different to real estate. Like there is a fee for me to do the work and there is a fee for marketing. And I don't want to compromise and cut corners on the marketing, because if we cut corners on the marketing, we may cut corners on the price, right? The second thing I would say to that person is understand, people deep down know there's no free lunches. So when another agent goes in there and says, we'll pay for the marketing, I've got to tell you, it's not a $7,000 marketing campaign. It's generally a campaign that is seductive because it says, oh, we'll do a little bit of this, we'll do a little bit of that. You know what a good real estate agent does, Tara? They actually say, here is what free is, and here is what not free is, right? And that would, to me, would be the most important thing. But again, repeating to everyone, I've got to tell you, look around at REA's top agents when they do their awards. Once a year, their excellence awards, you can't help it. You look at the people that are writing the big numbers, they are agents. They're not actually flirting with marketing. They're all in. They're like the chief marketing officer of their business. Over to you, Tara.
That is fantastic. I like that, Chief Marketing Officer of your business. I'm definitely going to remember that one. There was a thank you, of course, for putting on this webinar, which we do absolutely thank you for. As a brand new agent, and I feel a little bit like a little old at the moment, and you might too. How do I compete with the dinosaur agents in my area? What edge can I use to sell myself as a brand new agent? If it's not free advertising, then what else basically can I put up there? Because I don't really have past sales. I want to become an attraction agent. I might be working towards it, but of course I'm new in the business. So what is it that I can do?
Well, the first thing you shouldn't do is try and compete with that dominant agent on the dominant agent skills. What you've got to do is you've got to flip the switch and you've got to do the exact opposite. When they go in, Tara, and they say, I'm an attraction agent, I've been here for 20 years, I deserve your property, list it with me, we sell the most times. Don't play that game. If you're that agent, that's the newer agent that you're talking about, this is what you should do. You'd go in and say, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, I want to let you know I'm relatively new to real estate, but you're in safe hands. Our office has been going for 40 years. And when you list with me, you list with we, you list with the team. Number two, I do not sell the most homes, but I sell the homes for most. If you're looking for a qualitative based agent, I'm your person. If you're looking for a quantitative based agent, and basically what I mean, if you're looking for a Woolworths or a Coles or a supermarket type agent, I'm probably not your one. I'm only working with 3 or 4 people at any one time. That's why I'm selling less properties. But what it means is that when you list with me, you're also getting me. I'm accountable to you. I'm not going to be listing your property and getting one of my junior associates, one of my junior PAs hamming your property. You list with me, you get me. I'm accountable. I'm at every open. I do all the callbacks. I sign off on all the marketing. And at the end of the day, the buck sits with me. Not only that, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, I'm letting you know. I wake up every morning and I've got to prove myself in this market. Other agents that have been here for 30 years, they feel they're entitled to your business. For me, it will be a privilege to represent you. Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, I want to let you know there will not be an agent that's going to work harder than me in this marketplace. When can I get to work? Basically, you've got to go in, Tara, and you've got to have new business energy, and you've got to have an opposite story, because that other agent is going to turn around and their story is that we've got the most buyers, we sell the most homes, we're here the longest. What you should be doing is, no, we don't. We don't sell the most homes, but we sell the homes for most. Do you want top dollar? Over to you, Tara.
Well, you say you need confidence when you go in to sell these products and to sell VPA, and you need confidence to sell yourself too, don't you? So you need to be able to do that. One last question for you, and then we will put a poll up to see how valuable participants found this, which I think is extremely. How do you convince unrealistic vendors when you are realistic, honest, and hardworking and knowledgeable without losing that listing? How do you
And I,
convince those guys?
I presume you're talking about price, is it?
Yep. So
Or
they're being unrealistic about what they're going to get, especially if they don't want to necessarily put enough into their marketing. So I want as much as possible for as little as possible that I'm giving.
okay, okay. So Tara, the 2 biggest things that agents have to learn to cope with at a listing presentation is what's it worth, how much is my home worth, and number 2, how much is it going to cost me to sell with you, commission and marketing. So all I'm going to say is that every vendor wants more for their home originally than it's worth. Every vendor thinks they've got the best looking kid. That's life. We've got to accept and learn to live with that, right? And I would say that if you've got a vendor, let's talk on the price issue first. If you've got a vendor that's a little bit overpriced and they want $1 million, and let's assume it's only worth 900, this is what I would say to get the business. Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, the comparables that I've got here that I've brought from PropTrack are showing me that it's probably in the early 9s. But I don't care about those when you list with me in the first instance. Because what I care about is you told me you'd like to get $1 million. My job is to try and go out there and find someone who has the same view on value as what you do. Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, that's my goal. And I got to tell you, $1 million would be a great number to achieve, even though the comparables are telling me lower. Tara, when you use that approach, you're basically saying to them, your home is not worth $1 million. And I don't like people that lie, right? Because what you're doing is if you lie, you're getting an overpriced turkey. It's not a listing, it becomes a liability. But the other thing that you're saying is, I need to find someone who has the same opinion on value as what you do, right? So what you're saying is something along the lines of, you can see the invisible value of your home. I've got to try and find someone who can see that same invisible value. And that's my first job. And if we don't get there, then we can come back and reassess. On the marketing, that's on the price. On the marketing point of view, when you have a vendor that says, "Oh, I want to do it at a cheaper figure," I would just say this, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, you've got a home that is like a Porsche. You've got a home that's a Lamborghini. What you're telling me to do is to actually make your home a Hyundai or a Toyota Corolla. What you're basically saying to me is, have a car yard with all these Porsches, Lamborghinis, beautiful cars, and amongst them, there's this cheap $15,000 old Kia sitting there. I don't want to do that. I don't want to confuse the marketplace, right? So I think when you can show a vendor that the marketing is actually, or the lack of it, is going to impact them more than it's going to impact you, people get it. Because the first thing you'll say is, I want to let you know your $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 marketing campaign? I get zero. I don't get any money of that. My job is to use that 6,000 to turn it into $60,000 in extra value. Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, how open, by the way, that's one of my favorite lines. Tara. I love how open. How open would you be that I show you how Lux can help you get top dollar? I'll tell you why I like that. Everyone wants to be open. No one wants to be narrow-minded. No one wants to say, no, don't show me. I'm a closed-minded, narrow-minded person that does not want to get top dollar. So that's what I would do. Over to you, Tara.
Oh, so much to think about, but from all of the things that I've seen coming through chat, people are so grateful for giving them kind of renewing their confidence in themselves, but also in what's available out there. And I think they're ready to go tackle those vendors. And I think that's fantastic. Thank you so much for your time today. We're very grateful to you for taking that time, especially in your busy traveling schedule. And we are going to put up a poll. And if you could please answer that poll, we'd really appreciate it. But thank you so much again, Tom, and I'm sure we'll see you again soon.
Thank you so much. And I've got to give that prize away, Tara. I've got to give away
Oh,
that
yes.
three.
So we will send you the names, and that way
Yes.
you can pick somebody.
Okay. My final words are to the great realestate.com.au customer base. Always remember, because I'm getting, Tara, the one thing that bugs me at the moment is these agents, when I ask them, how many listings have you got? And they say, I've got 2 on market, I've got 3 off market. What is this off market? If it's not on the market, it's not in the market. Do you understand that, everyone? All righty.
Thank
Signing
you.
off.
Really
Thank you.
appreciate it.